Germany, the rise and fall of an empire. History is filled with the rise and fall of empires, each one leaving behind stories that still shape the world we live in. From the ancient Sumerians to the collapse of the Soviet Union, these empires have changed the course of time, and within their stories lie not just facts, but valuable lessons that help us understand our present and prepare for our future. In this episode, we travel back to the dramatic tale of the German Empire, a short-lived yet powerful force that once challenged Europe's balance of power. This is not just the story of a country, it's the story of ambition, brilliance, war, and downfall. A dream forged in fire and iron. The story begins in 1871. At that time, Europe looked like a shattered mirror, fragmented and unstable. The German-speaking regions were divided into dozens of small kingdoms and duchies. But out of that division rose a dream, a unified Germany. That dream found its champion in Otto von Bismarck, the iron-willed Chancellor of Prussia, a master strategist and brilliant diplomat. Bismarck believed that unity would not come through speeches alone, but through blood and iron. His first move came in 1864. Prussia and Austria joined forces to fight Denmark over the territories of Schleswig and Holstein. Denmark lost nearly a third of its land and 40% of its population. While it was a national trauma for Denmark, it also sparked the birth of modern Danish unity. For Bismarck, it was the first step in his grand plan. 2 years later, in 1866, Bismarck turned on Austria. In just 7 weeks, the Prussian army, led by General Helmuth von Moltke and backed by advanced rail logistics and weaponry, crushed Austria in the Battle of Knigritz. Prussia emerged as the dominant German power and formed the North German Confederation, setting the stage for the final act, a crown in the Hall of Mirrors. Bismarck's ultimate move came in 1870 with the Franco-Prussian War, triggered by a diplomatic dispute over the Spanish throne, a conflict Bismarck cleverly manipulated. The war ended with a stunning Prussian victory. French Emperor Napoleon III was captured at the Battle of Sedan. Then, on January 18, 1871, in the glittering Hall of Mirrors at the Palace of Versailles, King Wilhelm I of Prussia was declared Emperor Kaiser of a newly unified Germany. France had to surrender Alsace-Lorraine and pay huge reparations. Humiliated, France burned with the desire for revenge. The empire awakens. Post-1871 Germany exploded into life. The empire entered the Second Industrial Revolution with remarkable speed. It raced past rivals like Britain in steel, chemicals, and engineering. Carl Benz created the world's first car. Gottlieb Daimler revolutionized transportation. German chemical giants like BASF and Bayer turned coal tar into synthetic dyes. In 1913, Fritz Haber's ammonia synthesis used in fertilizer and explosives further boosted both agriculture and the military. Electricity lit up Berlin's streets in 1884. Innovations in steel production led to modern bridges, railways, skyscrapers, and weapons. By 1893, Germany outproduced Britain in steel. By 1914, it was making twice as much. Cities swelled as people moved from farms to factories. In 1872, only 8 cities had over 100,000 people. By 1910, that number had grown to 48. Germany's economic surge reshaped Europe's power map and ignited new waves of colonialism and globalization. But its greatest strength lay in its military. Power in uniform, Prussia's military traditions, and strategic minds, especially Moltke, modernized Germany's armed forces. He laid the groundwork for the famous Schlieffen Plan, the military blueprint for a future two-front war. From 1870 to 1914, Germany developed some of the world's most advanced weapons, machine guns, artillery, and precision rifles. Under Kaiser Wilhelm II, the Navy expanded rapidly under Admiral Alfred von Tirpitz's guidance. By 1914, Germany had the world's second-largest navy, with battleships, cruisers, and deadly submarines, rivaling Britain's Royal Navy. This massive arms race became a fuse for a far greater fire. Missteps and the road to war. In 1888, after the death of Kaiser Wilhelm I, his grandson Wilhelm II took the throne. He quickly forced Bismarck to resign, ending the Iron Chancellor's 30-year reign. Without Bismarck's steady diplomacy, Germany began making dangerous mistakes. Wilhelm's aggressive style and poor judgment isolated Germany from potential allies. It was a series of blunders that would soon have dire consequences. In 1914, a single bullet lit the fuse. On June 28, Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary and his wife were assassinated by a young Serbian nationalist in Sarajevo. Austria blamed Serbia. Backed by Germany's blank check of support, Austria issued a harsh ultimatum. Serbia accepted most conditions, but refused to let Austrian police operate on its soil. On July 28, Austria declared war. Russia mobilized to protect Serbia. Germany declared war on Russia on August 1st and on France 2 days later. Invading neutral Belgium dragged Britain into the war on August 4th. World War I had begun. The fall of the empire. Germany's Schlieffen Plan aimed to crush France quickly via Belgium, but was halted at the Battle of the Marne. The war bogged down into 4 years of brutal trench warfare. Battles like Verdun and the Somme caused millions of casualties. On the Eastern Front, Germany scored major victories at Tannenberg and the Masurian Lakes. But as the war dragged on, Germany's resources ran thin. A naval blockade choked food supplies. Civilians suffered. Riots and protests broke out. Germany's last major offensive in spring 1918 failed. U.S. entry into the war tipped the balance. Defeat was looming. On November 9, 1918, Kaiser Wilhelm II abdicated and fled to the Netherlands. The German Empire, only 47 years old, collapsed. A new republic, the Weimar Republic, was born from the wreckage. Versailles and the weight of defeat. On June 28, 1919, the Treaty of Versailles formally ended the war. But for Germany, it was a national humiliation. It was forced to accept full responsibility for the war, lose 13% of its territory, and surrender critical coal and iron resources. The military was reduced to a shell, just 100,000 troops, and no air force. The treaty left Germans angry and bitter. Many saw it as a betrayal. The November criminals, the politicians who signed it, were blamed for Germany's defeat. The harsh terms of Versailles crippled Germany's economy and destabilized its politics. It created the perfect storm for future conflict and planted the seeds of World War II. The German Empire's rise and fall is a powerful lesson in history. It shows how ambition, unity, and innovation can make a nation rise to greatness, and how arrogance, miscalculation, and unchecked power can just as quickly bring it crashing down. But this story doesn't end here. History's wheel keeps turning. After Germany's fall, another great power would rise that would shape the modern world in new ways. Stay tuned for the next chapter, the story of the Soviet Union.